In this tutorial, we are going to take the modeled chain link fence, export it out of Maya, import it into Substance Painter, and texture it. In part 1, we modeled this and UV'd it using Maya. This was a very quick model that we created, and I showed you how to create this and how to UV it. And then in part 3, in the follow-up tutorial, we are going to take this completed texture and the model and use it inside UE5. But right now, let's go ahead and texture this. So here's the final modeled chain link fence. We need to export this for Substance. Now I'm only going to export this piece right here, since this post right here is going to be using the same UVs, and I don't need to include this as part of the fence when we bring it into Substance. So basically I'm just going to take this combined mesh and export it. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to go to File, and we need to export this, export selection as an FBX. So the settings that I have, file of type is going to be FBX export. I'm going to make sure that under geometry I have smoothing groups and smooth mesh enabled. And then just navigate into a folder where you want to export this. So I'm going to go into exported meshes. I have for Substance folder, and I'm going to name this chain link fence, and I'm just going to name this version 2. That's the one we're going to use. And export selection. So that's it. We are now ready to jump into Substance Painter. In Substance Painter, let's go to File, New, and I'm going to use a template, Unreal Engine 4. This will also work for Unreal Engine 5. I'm going to go ahead and select the mesh that we exported from Maya. I'm going to navigate into the folder where we exported it into, and here's the chain link fence version 2. I'm going to go ahead and open it. Then I'm going to set up my project settings. My document resolution, I'm going to keep it at 2048. However, our final one, we're going to the textures themselves. We're going to downgrade them to 1K, 1024. And then the rest of the settings I'm going to keep as is. And then let's go ahead and click OK. That's going to bring in the mesh into the viewport. And let's go ahead and bake our textures. That's the first thing you should do. So I'm going to go to Textures, Set Settings. Scroll down and let's bake mesh maps right here. We're going to create output size to 1024. Actually 2048, the same one as we set up in the project settings. Usually keep these two the same. And then everything else I'm going to keep default. And let's bake selected textures. Alright, now we're done. Again, simple mesh, nothing much to bake here. Took really quick. So now I'm going to switch over to layers. Alright, so we have no textures applied onto this, and we're going to use either base materials or smart materials, depending on whichever one I find to use. Now when it comes to the chain link, there's no chain link fence here. There's no material by default that's available. So we actually need to, there's iron chain, but that's it. So that's not what we want. So we're going to need to jump over to Marketplace and see what's available there. And that's where we're going to get our chain link fence base material to use. If you don't use the Marketplace, then you'll have to use Substance Designer and create one your own. So we're not going to do that. We're just simply going to use what's available to us. And it does a pretty good job. It's going to create a really good result. So to get access to the Marketplace right from Substance Painter, you go on the left hand side right here and click to browse 3D assets in Marketplace. It's going to take you to Creative Cloud Desktop, and all you need to do is go and search for it, because it's already going to put you into the Substance 3D assets for you to search. So it's going to be, if you're not clicking on here, you can navigate to Creative Cloud Desktop. You would go to Stock and Marketplace, and then you would click on 3D to get access to the same page. So let's search for chain link fence. And here's the one we're going to use. You can take a look at the preview of what the result will be. So once you like what you're looking at, and that's the one we're going to use, just click to download. It's going to go ahead and download it. And so what I usually do is I download the SBSAR. SBSAR file type is a base material type. So you have an option to download it, which will give you the actual file that you have to import into Substance Painter, or you can send it to Painter and it will be inserted into the library tab right here on the left for you. I like to download it, so I have a copy of it. So I went ahead and downloaded it. And here it is. Here's the copy, chain fence.sbsar. Back in Painter, we need to go ahead and use this SBSAR file type and include it into our library into the base materials so we can go ahead and apply it to our mesh. Now there are a couple of ways to make that file appear in here, and the one I'm going to use is I'm going to go to File, Import Resources, and that's the one I'm going to use. So through this menu I can go ahead and import it. So I'm going to add resources. I'm going to navigate to the folder where we downloaded the SPSAR file. And here it is. So I'm just going to select it, click open. And then under import your sources to, you have to select. Do you want to do this for current session? This means that it will only appear in the current session of Painter. And then whenever you shut down, that SPSAR will disappear. And you'll have to re-import it again if you were going to use it. You can do this into your project Unreal Engine 4 or into the library, your assets, which will mean it will keep it there the next time you launch Painter. I'm going to go ahead and just do this for current session, meaning that it's only going to appear until the time I shut this down. And then next time I reopen, that chain link fence in my library will not appear, which is fine. I only need to use it for this project and that's it. I'm not going to use it again. I don't have any other meshes that I'm going to apply this chain link fence to. But I'll still have the ability for me to edit whatever properties I have as long as I save the project. So I'll still have it available inside my layers, and all the properties for it that will still be kept. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. The one thing you might need to do under chain fence right here where it says metal, you might need to select base material. It might be an empty property and you'll just have to use the drop down menu and select base material. So let's go ahead and click import. Here it is, it appeared. And now we are ready to use it. So if I go ahead and take this chain fence and it's under base materials, I'm going to go ahead and clear this. And I can go ahead and search for fence. And it's going to be right here underneath the regular base material. I'm going to take this and I can go ahead and apply it to my mesh. However, it's going to apply to the entire mesh and we don't get the opacity for it. So we're going to need to do two things. One, enable the opacity channel to be available in this project, as well as we're going to need to apply just to the flat plane and not to the metal bars. So let me go ahead and delete this. Actually, I can go ahead and keep it just so I know it works. And then we'll delete it from the layers and reapply it again. So to have the opacity show up, let's go to shader settings right here on the right. And under PBR metal rough, left click on it to get access to more options. And we need this one right here. PBR metal rough with alpha blending. Go ahead and enable this, change it. So our shader now will have alpha blending. Let's go ahead and close this. And then we need to go to texture set settings. Then scroll down until you see your channels. And we need to click on the plus icon and enable opacity. As soon as you do that, you'll have opacity available to you. And whenever we export a texture, our albedo will have an alpha channel, which will give us opacity for the chain link. Let's go back up and go to layers. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete the chain link fence and the layer 1. Let's go ahead and in the texture set list, let's rename it from Lambert 1 to something more we can recognize, chain link fence. This will just give us the name, and whenever we do export the texture, it will keep that name. But you don't have to change this. You'll be able to rename your files after you generate them. Then let's go ahead and take our chain link fence base material we have and left click and drag it to where we want it to appear. Now this is again going to apply to the entire mesh. But we only need to apply it to that flat plane. So to do this, we're going to use the polygon fill. So I'm going to make sure my layer is selected. And I don't get access to this icon right here, polygon fill, because we need to create a black mask. So I'm going to come over to the chain fence, right click on the thumbnail and add black mask. I'm going to select the black mask. And then now I can come over here to polygon fill on the left hand side. Make sure that's enabled. And then come down to the bottom where it says properties. And I want to go ahead and make sure that mesh fill is enabled. And because our flat plane is a separate mesh, even though it's combined with the entire object, because it's a separate mesh that we use to combine with everything else, I can left click on this to reveal the chain fence. But my bars, the metal pieces, are going to stay the default material. And that's how we apply the chain link just to that part. Now we need to look for some steel or aluminum or something that we can apply to the bars. So let's search for steel and see what we can find. There's painted, steel rough. Maybe that one is a good one. So to apply it to only those parts, I'm just going to left click and drag to this section right here. Again, it's going to apply to the entire thing, and we'll have to mask it out. But before I do, let me just take a look. Actually, I'm not going to use this, so I'll undo, and let's go to Smart Materials and look for steel there. Maybe we'll have a little bit more options. And whenever you use Smart Materials, we'll have a lot more layers to control and do something with. So I'm actually going to use this steel right here. So I'm going to left click, hold and drag, and just drag it onto this post. It's going to apply to everything. So what we need to do is we need to create a black mask for the steel layer. Because I am using a smart material, I have a folder with a lot more layers to control what that steel is going to look like. And to assign the black mask, I'll just need to assign it to the very top layer. This one right here. So I'm going to right click and add black mask. And then I need to use the polygon fill. Make sure that's enabled. Come down to the properties, make sure it's mesh fill. And just select the meshes that I want to apply this to. So I'm going to left click on this bar and left click on this bar. So now I have the steel being applied to where it needs to be in the chain link fences on a single plane. Let's change how our chain link fence looks. So I'm going to come down to chain fence, select the layer, not the black mask, but the actual layer itself. And because this is a base material, it has a few properties for us to control. So let's go to properties. Let me raise this up a little bit. And the properties we want to control are going to be right here. We have tiling. So let's change tiling to, so 1 is the default. Let's go with 3. And again, remember that this chain link fence is about, it was 120 units in height. So a character comes up to 180. So I'm just kind of estimating what the character would be and what it's supposed to look like. Let's go up to 4, like so. And then we're not going to change rotation. No offset. Come down to some other properties here. We also have tile properties as well. So you have tiling. But then if we come down here, actually, I'm going to go ahead and reduce tiling. But I'm going to come down to the parameters here. And let's say we want to tile this 10. So we can change it here as well. So I have two properties. Looks like I have two properties to change the tiling for. Yeah, let's keep it like this. And then I'm going to scroll down a little further. And let's change the color. I don't want this green, so I'm gonna go a little bit more gray, like so. And then we can adjust the roughness. Let's so roughness of 0 will be very shiny. Roughness of 1 will be very dull. So I want to have a little bit of more shininess to it. So let's go 0.4. I do want these to be metallic, so I'm going to change it to 1. And I'm going to adjust distortion. So distortion just gives a little bit of warping effect. So not every single chain link is the same. So it gives a little bit more realism to them. And that's it. That's all we're going to change. So it looks pretty good. We can also add a bit of dirt. So our chain link fence is not completely clean. To do this, I'm going to select the chain fence layer and we're going to create a fill layer on top. So let's go up here to the bucket, add fill layer. Then let's choose a color for our dirt. Select the thumbnail, come down to base color and choose something that will look like our dirt. Something like that. Darker color. Now let's close it. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to take a look at the channels that I want to have with this dirt. So I don't need height. I will keep roughness. I don't need opacity because I want to have the opacity from the chain fence. So you can see I can see it fully through now. I don't need a normal map or metal. So we're just going to add color and roughness. Now we're just changing this right now. Completely we're changing what the fence looks like. So let's go ahead and right click on the thumbnail for fill layer and add a black mask. It's off screen, but you'll just add a black mask. We can add a black mask through here by clicking on add mask and add black mask. So it's going to completely cut out everything from it, and then we just need to apply the black mask. We need to mask just that section out. So we can use the same trick we did before. I'm going to select the black mask. I already have polygon fill selected. I'm just going to select make sure I am using mesh fill, and I'm just going to select the plane. So now we're back So this dirt is being applied just to the chain link, but it's overtaken our color that we had for chain fence. So I'm going to right click on the black mask and we're going to assign a generator. This generator is currently empty, but we can assign a dirt generator that will blend between the chain fence, apply some randomness to the color so we can see the chain fence color, and we'll see some random dirt that's going to be this color right here that we have in the fill layer. So our generator is selected, it's empty. Come down to generator options and search for dirt. And I don't need to actually search for it, it's right here. Select it, and let's zoom in and take a look. Let's adjust a few properties so we can actually see it better. So I'm going to select the fill layer, make sure the dirt is selected to give us properties for it. And let me go ahead and start changing this. So you can see that it's applying a level of dirt randomly. So let's go, so basically here, this is your time to just kind of change the settings to vary up how the dirt will look on your chain link fence. So you'll have to just go through it. There is grunge amount, there is grunge scale. So choose something that you will like. If you need to rotate the light, you hold down Shift and right click hold and then drag across to see the light in the different direction. And just go through and apply what you need. If you need to change color of your dirt to something else, you just come over to the fill layer, click on this icon right here, go back to your properties, fill, and choose a different color. Maybe you want to go a little bit darker. And then we can also adjust our roughness that we decided to change. So my roughness right now for the dirt is at 0.3. 0 is going to be very shiny, so I want to go ahead and push this all the way to 1. So that changes everything. So now I can go back to my dirt layer, select the black mask so I can get access to the dirt generator, and go ahead and start adjusting the dirt level and then maybe dirt contrast, and go through grunge amount. You can see that it just kind of reapplies the dirt in certain sections, and I'll just have to go back and forth adjusting these properties. Maybe I want roughness to be 0.9, not 1, and you just go back and forth adjusting the dirt and maybe changing the color of the dirt itself, so that way you have some variation. So this is more of an artistic choice that you'll have to do for whatever chain link of a fence that you want. And then for the poles, we have additional controls to do something with the metal poles. So if you come up here, the steel has quite a few layers because it's a smart material. The easiest way to do adjustments for this is to first disable and enable whatever the base color is doing. And then you figure out what that layer is doing to the material. And then you go ahead through and adjust it. So if you wanted to have, so some of these have an like a generator to it. So you just select the mask. You see I have a warp effect, mask editor for the edges. So I can, if I select each one of these, I have properties to control for each of those generators. So actually, let me go ahead and hide this. I'll go to roughness, let's go to surface detail. See if it has, there's a mask editor here. I can adjust these, just basically drag and see what they do. And as well as the base. I have a fill layer, I have a finished brushed linear. But I think overall this looks pretty good, but I do want to have maybe a dirt pass just on the poles. So I can do the same thing I did for the chain link. I'm going to select the steel. And actually, we just need a fill layer. So I'm going to select edges. The layer right below the steel, I'm going to create a new fill layer. So it's right above edges and below the steel. Then I'm going to apply a black mask. So we'll get back to our material. I'm going to select the black mask. Let's go add generator. Click on this icon right here, add generator. So you can right click to add generators, or you can use these drop down menus. And there's an add generator right here. And also I want to make sure that the fill layer, and it should only apply to the steel. So let's go ahead and actually add the generator dirt, the same one that we had before. And it only should apply to the steel because we're already masking things out right here in the steel folder itself. And it should not apply to the chain. And that's the way it's working. Yep, we're only applying it to this. So then I can go ahead and tweak this dirt. So I'm going to select this layer right here where we have the color, the thumbnail, not the mask. And then I don't want the height. Let's keep roughness. So that way we control the roughness of the dirt. no normal, no opacity, and no metal. So basically, we are just going to be adjusting the color for the dirt and the roughness for the dirt. So for the base color, let's go ahead and make it darker. And let's choose maybe a little bit more brown, like so. And then for the roughness, let's go a higher amount so it's not shiny, and we can see it better. Here's before, here's after. And now let's go to the dirt generator. I need to click on the black mask to see it again. Select the dirt. And here I just need to adjust again. You just go through the properties. How much dirt do you want? What's the contrast of it? What is the scale? Grunge amount. And just go ahead and tweak everything you need to make your fence look exactly how you would want for your style. And the amount of dirt or whatever else you want to apply. So I'm not going to tweak any of these. That's more of your decision, your choice. But now we have ability for us to add some dirt to the steel. And we have our grunge. And we have our chain fence that has its own dirt applied to it. Like so. So here is our final piece. That's how you texture a chain link fence that we be able to see through. And the last step is to export the textures that we can use to import into Unreal Engine 5. To do this, you just go to File, Export Textures. Let's select the chain link fence. And here we can decide which texture output maps do we want. We don't need emissive, which is going to be the last one. There's no emissive properties for it, but everything else we do need. Color, metallic, and normal. So the metallic right here, this second option, it will have your ambient occlusion, it will have your roughness, and it will have your metallic. So 3 textures will be packed into one. I don't want the size of these textures to be 2048 by 2048. I actually want 1024 by 1024. So I can change this in Unreal. I can resize it myself, or I can set it here, which that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back to global settings, and right here, my output template is going to be the same one for the project. Unreal Engine 4 will work for Unreal Engine 5 as well. My size, based on each texture set size, that's going to be 2048. I want 1K, 1024. And then your output directory. Decide where do you want to save your textures. So I'm going to click on this and find a location where the textures are going to be saved. So here I navigated into a folder somewhere else, not on the default drive, not on the default location that it told me. And this is where I'm going to save the output textures. So I'm going to select this folder, just update it, and now just click export. And it's going to export your textures for you. So the base color is the one that's going to have your color, and it will have an alpha channel that will have the opacity. And then of course you have your packed texture with ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic packed into each individual channel. And then you have your normal map. Let's go ahead and close this. And here are the saved textures. You can go ahead and rename them if you need it. So you can just remove that double naming convention that it gives. We could have done this inside Painter as well, but I like to do it outside. And now we have our 3 textures. So that's it. We have our textures, and we are ready for our next tutorial where we'll export our final meshes from Maya, the 2 meshes. This mesh right here, which is going to be our kind of continuation of the fence. And then we have a pole that we can close things off. And then we're going to import everything into Unreal Engine 5, including our textures, set up our material, and have a chain link fence that we'll be able to see through.